Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response,
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who are on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
The major news in the race for 2020, Senator Kamala Harris announcing she's dropping out. Once drawing huge crowds, one of the top candidates on the Democratic side. So what happened?
A campaign that started with so much promise brought to an abrupt end today, even before the first vote was cast.
I'm not a billionaire. I can't fund my own campaign.
Senator Kamala Harris, who sought to be the first black female president of the United States, calling the decision one of the hardest of her life.
I cannot tell you that I have a path forward if I don't believe I do.
But Harris started to plateau in the polls, often struggling to defend her record as a prosecutor.
When you had the power, why didn't you try to effect change then?
So there have been, I'm glad you asked me this question.
Are you committed to naming a black woman as your vice presidential running mate?
I am not committed to naming any but the people I've named, and among them there are 4 black women. So that decision is underway right now. And
you have appointed this week a group that will assess and vet your vice presidential candidates, ultimately your candidate that you would choose as your running mate. And you and I have talked. You know that I prefer a black female. You've committed to a woman. You've committed to a woman, a black woman, to the Supreme Court. I won't press you on that because you've given it to a committee. But for the record, we have had that discussion and you listened.
Number one, I committed that if I'm elected president, have an opportunity to appoint someone to the courts, I'll appoint the first black woman to the courts. It's required that they have representation now. It's long overdue. Secondly, if I'm elected president, my cabinet, my administration will look like the country. And I commit that I will, in fact, I'll pick a woman to be vice president. There are a number of women who are qualified to be president tomorrow. I would pick a woman to be my vice president.
Just to be clear, you just committed here tonight that your running mate, if you get the nomination, will be a woman?
Yes.